My name's Patricia Omans. I'm a resident of a neighborhood called Frogtown in St. Paul, Minnesota. The garden spaces that I help to manage through an initiative that is unincorporated. It's just a group of volunteers. We're known as Frogtown Green. We manage 2 community gardens, which are fairly large. One of them is 25,000 square feet. And the other one is about half that in terms of square footage.
My name is Mark Peter Lundquist, and I am the founder of the Urban Ventures Farm. It's in South Minneapolis. We're about 6 years old, and we're an organic farm, and we have about close to 2 acres in the city, in an inner city neighborhood, and then about 4 acres outside of the city. So about 6 acres total.
Hi there. My name is Melvin Giles from this Rondo, St. Paul, Minnesota neighborhood. I'm part of the Urban Farm and Garden Alliance, which is a collection of 8 to 10 community garden sites and backyard gardeners.
Farm was established when 13 acres of land became available in 2008 due to the recession that occurred and that impacted our neighborhood. A large organization vacated that land, leaving it empty. It was not able to be developed for housing, and we created a very active campaign to have it turn into a park with an urban farm on it. Frogtown Green is the volunteer initiative that I now manage, was an outgrowth of that advocacy campaign because we realized there really wasn't enough green space throughout our neighborhood, not just in the one area where this park was created.
It's an inner city neighborhood, so it's very low income, poor graduation rates and poverty and all the things that go with an inner city neighborhood. And so that's why we decided to start a farm. We wanted to have a farm that could address food insecurity and health disparities and just people that have lack of access to good food and how that impacts their lives and their families.
Our association got started probably in about 2013, 2014, after just trying to coordinate a lot of different gardens in Frogtown and Rondo. Most of our garden sites are in Rondo, our community gardens. Part of our mission with Urban Farm and Garden Alliance is to be very intentional about reconciliation, about environmental justice, about undoing racism. We really try to focus on how do we relearn how to play fair together? How do we cooperate with each other instead of having competition? Part of the urban farm and garden work is how do we connect the dots, not just with food, but with transportation, with housing, with all the elements, health, everything's connected.
In the past, it has benefited our neighborhood immensely. It's been a source of great pride. It's been a source of a sense of resilience and creativity for our neighborhood. It's actually been a source of food. I believe about an average of 10,000 pounds of produce every year were distributed through our neighborhood food shelves directly as a result of having it being grown on the farm. In terms of the community gardens that we do have control over, we have 2 large community gardens, and one of them in particular serves a sort of a social purpose because it's across the street from a very large high rise that is mostly rented by, it's a public housing kind of thing, people with intellectual or physical disabilities. And so while the gardens that they maintain may not be arboretum worthy, they are therapeutic for the people that work on them. So I think there's a lot of benefits that come in general from community gardening. Food, camaraderie, a quiet place to be in an urban, in a noisy urban neighborhood, a touch of nature that is manageable in a way that perhaps for some folks that live in this neighborhood, nature isn't accessible. Driving to the state park or the national park isn't something that they're going to do, but you can certainly walk to the community garden and see things growing, see birds and flowers and butterflies and other pollinators.
Some of the things that are really different for us is there has been a very community development aspect of what we've done, where we've benefited. There's an added benefit with us being present in that neighborhood. The land that we're on was a former county dump, so we were able to purchase it and get all the soil remediated. And so just by virtue of us being there and addressing just the environmental issues has made a lot of the people in our neighborhood very, very happy with what we've done. So community is a really big thing. So the environmental thing is something that we really stress. Preventing runoff. We're getting solar installed here this year. Education is a big thing. We have 2 greenhouses. One of the greenhouses is about aquaponics and hydroponics. So we've developed that. The production we get is great, but also we wanted kids to learn the chemistry of growing. And then we also have 2 chicken operations where we do free range eggs, and then bee apiaries where it's not just for our land, but it's also for education purposes.
And our main goal is to create a matrix of being able to feed our community. And we promote backyard gardening. We think everyone should have a garden somewhere in their space, even if it's on a container. Even just having a couple of tomatoes or peppers in a big pot. We look at growing food and as the same as growing wealth. So for instance, if you plant some collard greens or some kale, every time you go outside and you pick you some leaves, you can think about going to Mississippi Market, Trader Joe, Cub's Food, how much 6 leaves of greens would cost you. Where you can just go outside and get it. Instead of paying $3 at a grocery store, you don't have to pay them. That's part of your own piece. So part of the work that Urban Farm and Garden, we work with the University of Minnesota Extension Health and Nutrition educators. So we try to help inform people. It's not just about eating food, it's making sure you are digesting the healthy food for you. And how do you preserve that food? And again, it's all about how do you either save money or how do you make an investment in yourself? We have a project called Grow RX. We work with Open Cities Health Clinic, and we try to work with other health providers, if it's mental health or physical health, where the health provider write a prescription to their patient. We fill the prescription with a garden box, with soil, with plants, and with education. And right now it's still in a pilot process, but we are hoping to be able to follow these gardeners to see if just growing food is making a difference in their health. Part of this project is to provide social opportunities and the patients range from the age of 16 to 90 something. And for the older ones, it's kind of nice for them to do what they did when they was much younger, have a garden. Many people we meet shared with us that as they was growing up, they definitely had a garden in their backyard or somewhere. And those are values and things that has been lost over time for whatever reason. But right now, we definitely believe for us, our most important thing is just, again, to get people to cooperate with each other, to be able to say hello to each other, to be able to be respectful. In particular, in the wake of George Floyd, where people are beginning to wake up to the obvious injustice, what's happening, that part of these paradigm shifts, part of the structure change has to continue to be, how do we empower community? How do we provide space for community, not just to talk about race, but to really talk about the environment? How do we care for the land? How do we care for each other? So much food is wasted right now. Right now, you'll probably see so many people doing food drives and food distribution. And it's kind of nice to be able to give people food, but are we also helping people how to learn how to save some of that food that they are using? Do people even know how to cook the food?
Our community gardens are completely volunteer run. We have, for every season, Frogtown Green hires one program coordinator who is part-time, 20 hours a week for 20 weeks, and is paid $15 an hour, usually $16 an hour, to help manage our community gardens. But other than that, all the gardeners are doing it because they want to.
So community is a really big thing. Employment is a really big thing. We, up till now, we usually hire 10, 15 high school interns and a couple college interns. We have 3 full-time staff. Well, 1 3/4 time, 2 full-time. And we're asked now this year, because of the budget constraints, because of COVID, we can't hire outside that. So it's just 3 of us managing this pretty large property. And so we're relying a lot on volunteers to come in and help us. We are in a food desert, so nutrition is very important to us to communicate to people. So we do have a nutrition educator as part of our team, so we can address obesity and hypertension and diabetes, all the things that are pretty characteristic of a neighborhood that is low income. 30% of our neighbors are food insecure, by the way, and about 60% live below the federal poverty level. So it's a challenge, but we did really well last year. We fed 2,000 families. We were able to grow about 8 tons of food, pull 8 tons out of our operation. This year, we're being asked to move to 3,000 families and to go up to 10 tons. So we're asked to be doing more with less, and we get that. And it's going to be interesting to see what we do, but that's how we're gonna work it.
We definitely depend on volunteers, particular at our community gardening sites. Each of our gardening leaders or gardening contact leaders are not paid staff. We definitely try to apply for grants to help offset people's time or for supplies quite a bit.
And as far as learning about composting, I'm a fanatic about composting, and I think it's really important. It's our waste, and we need to manage waste in a way that, in the way that nature intended, if nature has intentions. Is that our county administers an organic composting system that is actually quite elaborate. We don't have curbside pickup, but we do have a system whereby citizens can bring their organic food scraps, or their food scraps, basically, including dairy and meat and bones, to a yard waste site where they are consolidated, taken to an industrial composting facility that is run by a tribe, a Native American tribe, turned into good compost, and then brought back to the yard waste site where citizens can come individually and take as much of it as they want.
Okay. So composting for us, like for any, I think, urban farmer, is really important. And we have 9 compost bins that we use, and we generally use the food waste from the produce that we are unable to distribute, plus adding just organic material from the farm that that is produced, weeds and sticks and stuff that we just use to clear the farmland out. I would say we have a probably about a 5% waste. So I think we're doing pretty good. The problem that we have being in an inner city neighborhood is space. It's just so compact that we can't really expand. So we do have more compost down at our Lakeville farm. That's what we call it. It's more of our suburban site, where we have about 3 acres of sweet corn and 3 acres of organic vegetables. So there we get a lot more done. But the inner city one is the one that is most limiting. So we deal with it as best we can. I'm not sure really the capacity that we do. I would say it's a couple tons of compost. We've never really weighed it, which we probably should, but that's kind of what we're doing right now. We've had a great year of new compost here this year that we're spreading right now. So we're happy. It's working well, but I think it can be improved, like everything we do.
And all of our garden sites have some form of composting or recycling. And most of our garden sites, we encourage people not just to throw weeds into a compost site, because when you throw the weeds in, the weeds grow within your site. And the idea with the composting is really to create more new earth. And that's the wonderful thing about when things decompose. Even though like it's dead, it comes back to life. It's part of that nice cycle of life. Right now, we are also encouraging home recycling, in particular of food waste. And so we offer people little green containers where they can dispose their food, and they can take that food weekly or every other week to a site to dump it at a county site. Ramsey County is doing some really good things right now with supporting neighbors to do home composting. There was a group called Eureka, which I think is still around, that also provide education for people on recycling and on composting.
Frogtown Farm is supported through grants and through foundation grants, almost exclusively. Has had a fairly sizable budget. Our community gardens they don't cost very much. They're much smaller scale. As I said, we have one staff person, and we manage to pay that person through. We get individual donations, we get donations from my church, and we have a couple of small grants from collaborating organizations that are primarily interested in sustainability or environmental issues, water quality, tree planting, that sort of thing.
Something that, looking at costs and stuff, I think that a thing that we've wrestled with is I would say, maybe a third of what we grow, we sell, and then the 2/3 is we give away. in different distribution sites. And it's really because it's been difficult as a business model to think of how you can make money off of low-income people. It's just impossible. And so we've had to have not rely on sales as being our economic generator, but grant writing. So grant writing and donations and being very lean has made us be able to survive and to serve the neighborhood and to keep going. So our costs do exceed our revenue, but that's just the way it is. If we were in a suburb, it probably would be different. But given the fact of what our community is like, that's something that we're always going to be challenged with. Distribution is different. We do have a farm stand where people come, and if they're neighborhood people, all neighborhood people get a neighborhood card, and it gives them 50% off of everything right off the bat. We also deliver to other programs in the neighborhood, to partnerships that we have developed with other nonprofits. We have a mobile farmers market truck that does pop-up farmers markets at schools and things like that. So we will expand that collaborative work with other nonprofits. So COVID is working in a positive way in that respect, in that it's forcing us to, if we are to up our game, then we can't do it alone. So there's been some really interesting and fun collaborations that we are working with companies or nonprofits specifically around food rescue is what we're, and food banks are kind of who we're working with right now that we haven't worked with before.
Currently, as far as funding, we are in a collaboration called the Art of Food. And that has provided us with some funds to do different things. So the Art of Food is made up of Frogtown Farm, Public Arts St. Paul, ADA, Asian Economic Development Center or Association, and then the Urban Farm and Garden Alliance, and the other group is TCALT, or Twin City Agricultural Land Trust. And we each have our own specialty. So obvious, Public Arts St. Paul, they do a lot of artwork. The Asian Economic Development focus on business. The farm does farming and provided a space for community events. Urban Farm, we work with our gardeners and growing food. And TCAL helps us to be conscious of how do we really try to acquire more land, particular land that's not being used. How can we use that land to grow food or to do other things? Urban Farm and Garden Alliance, we have used funds to, the past 4 years, we have this event we do in December, which is the collard greens cook-off. Now it has been called the Greens Cook-Off. Our first year, we thought we was going to do it one time, but it was so successful, people asked us to do it again. And now we have changed the venue to a larger space. Our first 2 years was at Pilgrim Baptist Church, which is the oldest Black Baptist church in St. Paul. Now we've been having this Greens cook-off at Mount Olivet. And it's really, for me, very powerful. We have a celebrity winner and we have a People's Choice Award winner. So we have some judges who we call celebrity, but it's become a really event that people look forward to. We have entertainment, spoken word. We have information for the community. Another ways we use that funding, and the funding came from a group called the Kresge Foundation, is to do community field trips. So during the spring and summertime, we will have at least one monthly field trip around the community to highlight what we call the food system, to let people see where food grow, let people see grocery stores, what's in the neighborhood. We don't believe that Frogtown or Rondo is a food desert. We believe there's food, there's restaurants. So we let people know what's in the neighborhood that we can support. And again, when I think similar to that Hmong visit to the farmers market, last year we had some African Americans who, for the first time went inside a Hmong grocery store, and they was like, wow, wait, they got this here? No, they didn't know there was a deli inside there. And so we try to support those type of places and to let people see again the connection that we all have. Part of, again, Urban Farm and Garden Alliance is about human beings and how do we connect to each other and how to remember that we all are one people. We may have different nationalities, we may have a different culture, but we are all of one spirit.